Hello and welcome to another session with Autocar India. And today it's about motorsport and in particular Formula E. Now we're just fresh off the 2021 Formula E season and we just recently saw Alex Lynn hand Mahindra Racing a long overdue win at the London E-Prix. So it's been an interesting year for the team with M7 Electro using an all-new powertrain developed by ZF. And joining us today to talk about the past season and a lot more are Mahindra Racing CEO and team principal Dilbagh Gill, along with Sascha Ricanek, the Vice President of ZF Racing Engineering and Managing Director of ZF Racing Race Engineering. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us and welcome to the program. Dilbagh, I'd like to start off straight with you and just touch upon the season gone by. Alex Lynn won the 2021 London E-Prix, which is Mahindra's first Formula win in over 2 years. It's been a strong venue for Lynn. He's finished third in the first race too. But just your sense of how it's gone, that was a great win, but you finished ninth overall. And just a quick wrap on the season.
Well, I think for me, the season was quite encouraging, Hormazd, in spite of us not finishing in the championship position where we wanted. The powertrain delivered, the car delivered. And while we still finished the same position as last year, 9th, we were much closer to first this year. Okay, if you just look at it from an average, if the second car would finish in 9th place, which is like 2 points, you would have won the championship. So it was that close this year. And
Right.
Unfortunately, I think since we have this new team, we made a few mistakes in the beginning of the year, which sort of hurt us. But the second half of the year, we came on very strongly, which is quite different from what we always did, where we started strong in the beginning and faded out. This year, we were able to build up and bring developments right to the last race in Berlin also, where we finished reasonably strong in the last race, etc. So I think overall, I'm satisfied. I think for me, the most amount of encouragement I'm getting is we have a very strong platform for next year. And I think that's something which is really nice because it's a 2-year homologated car. And I think our platform is going to be consistent and very competitive next year.
Right. In fact, you're I think one of the first teams to commit to a Gen 3 era of Formula E from 22 to 23 season onwards. So just your, let's say, outlook for, the next season.
2021 to 2030 decade, I think is a decade for EVs in India. And I think this is a very relevant decade for us because while we have been in Formula E for the last 7 years, we're going to start seeing, I think where I like to hear your views more about this in terms of how the adoption of EVs is going to start picking up. Yeah. And I think we, along with ZF, would like to start contributing towards the adoption of EVs into India.
No, absolutely. In fact, I want to come to that later, because obviously it's a race to road, which is, very, very important at the end of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people got into Formula E in the first place. But, I just like to talk about the 2021 car, the M7 Electro. And, turning to you, Sascha, it's featured an all-new drivetrain, developed by ZF. I think this was done in the middle of the pandemic. Was it tricky? And just to get your thoughts, on the whole development process of your drivetrain.
Of course, the pandemic didn't make our life easier, but at the same time, it gave us a good focus, because as you know, all the OEMs and also suppliers streamlined their efforts, and we streamlined it also towards Formula E. We are clearly committed to that race series, but also to the development and to the support for Mahindra. Because for us, it's a good opportunity to showcase and to experience new technologies and also to learn a lot. And Dilbagh mentioned it, we make a very stiff curve of learning this season. And that gave us a good feedback also and proved also that our development we are doing for series developments, our efforts putting into the electromobility as a supplier is worth it. And at the end, we are very happy in the collaboration with Mahindra because we are getting a lot of feedback directly race to race back into our development department, which helps a lot. And that also during the pandemic gave us enough motivation and spirit under the COVID situation to develop the new powertrain.
Right. And Dilbagh, just turning quickly to you, just focusing on the pandemic, as Sascha said, yes, it was challenging, but also, in challenge, there's opportunity. Just generally for Formula E, when you have to take the event to, let's say towns and take it to the people, that's a big challenge in the pandemic. But did you see any opportunities coming out of this for yourselves? I mean, were there areas that, you could focus on, to kind of, let's say, make you stronger going forward?
I think, yeah, every challenge is an opportunity. And for us, I think when there was a break last year in the races, when we had to sort of, in the COVID, we were able to regroup. We are a small team, which was really getting stretched out to the limit.
Right.
Because we didn't have the resource compared to some of our competitors. So I think that 3 months sort of which was there between April, May, June, and part into July, it gave us some time to breathe, gave us some time to sort of regroup. And I think that's where we started coming back stronger. There were so many good ideas within Mahindra Racing which we weren't able to implement because of lack of resource and both from time and in terms of effort. And I think that sort of came together. Over and above that, I think for us, I think the biggest change was we were able to move to a new facility in this period of time. Now, for the first time ever in 7 years, we have everyone working under one roof, and where we can sort of have a development, simulation, and performance all coming together, which we never had earlier. As you know, Hormazd, we had some people in Spain, some in England. Now everyone's in England, 54 people in one building working together. And I think the most exciting part of it is, as we go to race to road, is in this campus, there are two buildings. The second building is going to be occupied by Pratap Bose and Mahindra Advanced Design. So now our race to road story is actually coming close together. We have the racing building and our electric car development center in the same complex.
Right. And just sticking with you, Dilbagh, race to road, obviously there's a Pininfarina angle to this as well. I would imagine there's some sort of synergy there too.
Yes, see, from us, we start interacting with all our electric properties. So there is a little bit of work with Velu and MRV. And now there has been some changes at Mahindra Electric of recent. And I think that's also starting to get regrouped. Even how Mahindra Electric is structured within Mahindra. It was a separate company, it sort of come in and now stuff like that. So I think we're going to see a lot more changes happening there. I think I'm really excited about the Born Electric projects also.
Yeah. And you've got Ulis Tuhuk, who's also come in, which I'm sure, would he brings a lot of experience as well.
Yes, I think the pieces are coming together. And again, with the partnership with ZF also and with Shell at the other end, we are starting to look at products which we think can be useful. And it's just not on the four-wheel side. As right. ZF has some interesting stuff on the two-wheel side also.
Right. So, coming back to you, Sascha, that's, just in that context, I just wanted, Dilbagh to set the context on the technology and the working relationship. Now, you supply the entire drivetrain to Mahindra, electric motor, transmission, power, electronics, everything. So, frankly, you are the heart of the car in that sense. So, just to understand, from the technology side, what's being done. I think now, from what I understand, the inverters use silicon carbide rather than silicon that's commonly used. So is the quest for more and more efficiency, increasing range, battery efficiency, that sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's all about efficiency at the end of the day. This was always with combustion engine the question, but now with electromobility, that's even more the question. And especially Formula E is encouraging that development and forcing us to have the highest efficiency possible. And it's not only how to gain in a drive mode the energy towards the wheels, it's also during recuperation, how to ensure that the hardware and the software plays the best role in it. And that's what we learned a lot, that due to our new powertrain, which we are now supplying to Mahindra, where we have a single stage drive shaft in, which has much lesser mechanical parts. So we have a higher efficiency here, less loss in the mechanical parts also. That helps a lot in terms of gaining efficiency. At the same time, we are learning a lot that software becomes more and more important, because the setting, and you can even see this on serious cars on road, how much predictive you are driving. Do you know there's a downhill, there's an uphill, there's a traffic light red or green? How you interact here as a driver and the car, that's very important. And the same is in Formula E. So from race to race, we are looking into the different tracks and how the driver goes into that tracks and where we can outperform here due to software settings and optimize our efficiency. And it's amazing what learning curve is behind there and how much you can gain out of that knowledge, which makes us proud to be the heart of the car and have a very big stake into the success of Mahindra. At the same time, it's a huge responsibility, because if we are not performing, Mahindra is lost in space overall. And that's where our collaboration is very special, I must say, because from day one, Dilbagh made it clear we are more than just a supplier here. We are part of the team because we are delivering into the heart of the vehicle. And we have a very close interaction between both our development teams and also the racing teams on site. We have race engineers sitting at the Mahindra Racing team at the track. And that also helps us to get direct feedback after every race, which is used, by the way, directly into series development in our advanced development department.
Right. Just coming to one of the points you talked about, the software side of things. So, now that the hardware is sort of homologated for the next season, is the software going to be the key to kind of extract the maximum from the overall packages? And just I wanted to press you a little bit on software and how critical now this is in really making the hardware totally optimized. I mean, is this really the secret sauce, which is the software?
It is. And by the way, it is why we are engaged in Formula E, because ZF is a hardware supplier known for more than 100 years. But also we want to showcase our capabilities in software, because in future, the combination as a system supplier, and which includes the software, will be the key to success. And especially, as I said, in electromobility, where efficiency is very important, by predictive drivetrain setups, software is more than only a small part of the whole thing. So yes, the hardware is set, it's homologated, we can't change it anymore. We are now very much looking into software settings. And what does software mean? One thing is to optimize towards the hardware which we are delivering. The other is to understand what is our strategy, what is the driver, how is he handling the car, how is the track, how is the weather, how are the conditions, and there are so many influences which affect at the end how the software setting can then outperform in terms of car performance on the track. And that's a stiff learning curve we have here, where we need to be very close in the entire team, because as I said, it's much more than just what Dilbagh's team and my team is doing. It's also involving the tire guys. It's involving, like we said, Shell, for example, as a partner with liquids. So many small components are influenced as a key of hardware delivery, but at the end, it comes all together in the software setup. And that's where we are working day by day on, yes.
No, it's interesting you say that, Sascha. I'm just going to stick with you for a bit because, you talked about really, you want to, of course, we know you for hardware. In fact, your 8-speed ZF torque converter, the longitudinal one is one of the best I've ever experienced. So we know your history and legacy. But obviously moving into, the EV side of things, you spoke interesting about becoming a complete system supplier. That's interesting because, the sense I get is currently there's in this early stages of the EV era, there's still a fair amount of vertical integration with the OEMs. But is that the way forward? I mean, do you think it's going to be a move more towards a systems approach, even for the OEMs, and that's what you want to kind of tap into?
It is, because that's the part of that technology change we are facing. And if we are just leaning back and just delivering the pure hardware, as I said, it will not gain the performance out of what the OEM is expecting from us. So now the question is how far we are going into that software development, and we know our hardware components the best. So it's on us to give that input also to the OEM on the system side. The car level is a different story, but on the system level, definitely it's something we need to tap into, and we need to have the knowledge in our company. And being a hardware supplier for more than 100 years, it's a challenge for us to go into that field of software development and to understand what kind of learning is behind. Also, what we are facing even in Formula E, and that's a good learning for us, is that the development cycle of a hardware part and of a software is totally different. A hardware part goes over 1 to 3 years, and there's a project template behind, and that's it. Software is an iterative process. Every week we have a new release. And that to be combined with hardware is a challenge itself. Yeah? And we are learning, as I said, we are learning the good way in Formula E, because from race to race, we can adapt the software, and we are doing that. And that's now the question, how we deal with that logic with an OEM, where we have just supplied hardware over the last 100 years. And now we say, we would like to give you more than that. It's acceptance, which is needed on the OEM side also. But that's what we prove, I think, very, very well in Formula E with Mahindra, that our contribution on the software side is really providing a performance into the car which can be used. And we saw in London that Alex made the best out of it, and we are more than competitive.
Right. No, that's really interesting. And Alex, before I turn to Dilbagh, you said you have a century of experience on the hardware side. Just want to talk a little bit on that development, because surely that also goes on. And the transmission in the Mahindra Formula E car. Now it's a single drive gear design. Is this to cut energy losses further? I mean, what's really the scope of let's say improvement on the hardware side as well?
On the hardware side, it's an optimization of mechanical losses, which occurs as much mechanical parts you have, especially in a gearbox. That was one development we did already. Now it's a matter of weight towards performance. So weight is very key also in electric cars, as we all know, because the battery is already heavy itself. So we need to lose weight as much as possible. At the same time, we need reliability and sustainability of the hardware. And that interaction is something we are working on, and there's less components you can use for that to have that mechanical losses reduced, as tricky it is to develop it. But I think we found a very good setup in the current hardware we have, and we see the most improvements now on the software side. We had nearly no issues on the hardware side, here and there small things, but that's nothing to be mentioned. But on the software side, we can now make the difference in performance. And as Dilbagh said, we are using now the same setup the second season, and we are very much looking forward, because I think we will be very competitive.
Great. Dilbagh, turning to you, talking about a race to road, very, very exciting. You've got Velu, who we know very well. Now Pratap's also joined there, and obviously your Mahindra Racing, very, very important part of EV development. Which areas do you see you giving, let's say, the maximum contribution? Because, let's be honest, the kind of EVs we have in India, they're not very high performance. Is there something that, let's say, transports across a full range of EVs?
Well, I think Hormaz's interesting part is, when you're talking EVs, the first sort of area where we can really help is composites. We understand now composites better, and as you see, even in regular production, Mahindra, they're starting to look increasingly towards composites. And how do we work with composites, and especially when you work with embedded composites, where composites and metals come back together.
In fact, the XUV 700 rear tailgate is composite.
Yes. So again, so that's an area where we start to sort of help across the organization, is to work with composites. And then I think the second part where we work on certain projects is on the safety on high voltage. Because traditionally Mahindra worked on low voltage systems. As we move up the voltage systems, how to sort of set up the safety standards. Because when we are talking about Formula E cars, we're talking about 800 volts plus. Where we're talking between 800 to 1000 volts, where we're working on. When we started Mahindra Electric, we were talking about 32 to 48 volts going to 300. And at each stage, the safety systems sort of started changing. So we sort of help work on the safety systems there. And thereafter, obviously, I think the biggest area is the software, because this is something which can be a low performance or what I'll call a commute car versus a high performance car. Software can still help it become more efficient. And last but not the least, Hormazd, which we've sort of realized, and we're trying to do this as a small project, is to teach the driver to drive more efficiently. Because see, driving has changed a lot. We started with 3 pedals, it became 2 pedals, and now with electric,
one pedal, with regen is 1 pedal. Yeah.
So like from 3 to 2 to 1. So how do you work here that 1 foot and keep that the most efficient? Because especially in India, when you talk about last mile mobility, and every even 5 kilometers of extra range results in extra money for the person who can do it. So the moment he starts realizing that he can drive the car, his electric Trio or whatever he's looking at, the Supro, Trio, etc., slightly where he can get maybe 10 miles or 10% more range, it's directly relates to money. So we're trying to work a little bit out there and maybe create some fun simulators for them to learn. So that's the first thing we learned when we brought ex-F1 drivers like Bruno Senna, Nick Heidfeld, was to teach them how to drive an electric car, know how to overlap the pedals, etc. It's so different. And as you know also, Hormazd, now, it's a total different mindset of lift and coast.
Right. Great, Dilbagh. I mean, I think I liked your thing going from 3 pedals to 1 pedal from a driver training point of view. Absolutely. I think, as the industry is learning, the people behind the cars are learning, even the drivers probably have to, kind of orient themselves to this new era. But, just now talking about the ZF and Mahindra's partnership, again, I just want to, let's say, if you could just give any areas in where do you think the partnership could expand beyond Formula E, between the two of you all, of e-mobility in general. Can we see some direct results, hardware, let's say, coming into road-going EVs in the future? Sascha, I'd like you to respond to that.
I mean, first of all, we are doing already business with Mahindra in several areas, not only in the e sector, but yes, we are in talks to expand this, especially in what we learn from Formula E, and see if there's an area we can go into the future together. Because now we know that our partnership works quite well, and we have the same understanding of where to progress and how to progress. On the series side, of course, we need to see what makes sense, as Dilbagh mentioned. Yeah, there's a country behind, there's demands from a market behind. We need to see how much we can teach the people that they accept the e-drive and how to handle the vehicle, because it's very different. Yeah, also from a charging point of view, for example, we need infrastructure. So there are many topics which will influence what we as two companies can gain out of that together. But we are in close contact to that, and are currently looking forward to work together more closely based on what we learned in Formula E. And one very interesting sector which will pop up, I think, in the future, maybe for us together or some sub-brands from Mahindra, is a two-wheeler segment. We are entering that segment with ZF now very strongly, because we think here, when we talk about last mile, for example, the two-wheelers is a fundamental part of that last mile concept. And we have already bikes and developing and delivering e-bike motors. And we would like to go into the same for motorbikes now.
Right. And, talking about e-mobility in two-wheelers, obviously there are challenges there. And Dilbagh, I'd just like to get your thought, and Sascha, even your thoughts in general on e-mobility, which frankly is still quite expensive. And in India, where affordability is such a big issue, people are very sensitive to costs. Do you think this is a big challenge? Do you see, let's say, the cost of e-mobility slowly coming down? I don't know whether you've experienced this in Formula E at all. I don't know. But, just your thinking, how do you see the trajectory from a cost perspective? Because that's still a big barrier, generally for the consumer.
I mean, from my point of view, very honest, I compare it to mobile phones. When you look at mobile phones, and we go back to times when Nokia was #1, would you have imagined an iPhone popping up, a Samsung popping up? No, because the battery was not there to enable such big displays and so on. So the same is what we are going through in e-mobility. As much the demand increases worldwide, the components will get cheaper. As I said, we need the right infrastructure. That's something which we are facing all over the world. Currently, there will be also countries which are not in that phase yet to step in completely. And one of those countries for sure is India, if you talk about the cost situation. So we are well aware that India is a very tough country to enter with the right e-mobility solution. Still, if you look at the numbers in two-wheeler segment, I mean, there is a huge demand behind, and we need to enable the market to get into that direction by having the right cost setting for that technical solution. Again, I think it's possible. It might take a bit of time, but that is a direction we have to go to, especially in countries like India, where we have mega cities with 10 million people plus. That's the solution for the inner city traffic.
Right. And Dilbagh, just turning to you, I know it's a little far removed from, let's say, everyday application, but, things like batteries, other bit of hardware, do you see the cost of that coming down in the future?
Absolutely, Hormazd. We've already seen it. In fact, in Formula E itself, we've started seeing costs coming down of a lot of critical components. Okay, if you look at battery, which is the sort of the core of the car, it's sort of following Moore's law of computing a couple of years ago. Like, we are increasing battery density every 2 years, literally. So battery density is sort of going on. So we're getting lighter, smaller batteries. Lighter, smaller battery results in a lighter, smaller car, which results in, okay, so that sort of goes down the positive trend which we're sort of seeing. As you see in the Formula E, the weight of the car remained the same between Gen 1 and Gen 2, but battery capacity doubled in the same weight of the car. Okay, so as we go to Gen 3, we're actually going to a higher horsepower car, and it's going to be nearly 100 kilos lighter. So the direction is moving on. But at the same time, I think costs are coming down. I'm quite far away from the road-going automotive side, so I may not be able to comment on the Indian market directly. But it's very encouraging because if you look at range, which has been one of the biggest things that people are looking at, how much mileage can they get out of a battery? And the cost, like when I would just take, some of the bigger manufacturers of electric vehicles said, 200 miles, which is around 320 kilometers, is a sort of a standard battery range when they sort of started. But that's what you normally commute between a Monday to Friday in a city. So that used to cost the batteries around $45,000 to $50,000 for 200-mile range. Today it's come down to around $22,000 if you look at it. So every couple of years that has been sort of decreasing down and coming down, while range has remained constant. And I think with newer technologies like fast charging, etc., our whole concept towards battery size also can change slightly. I think it's a bit of a mentality education where we have to work as that actually people don't need to be carrying a 300-mile range battery the whole year. Right. I can, if your requirement might just be a 100-mile battery, and with quick recharging, if you can do it in 8-10 minutes, you're sort of good with it, and that sort of changes the dynamics quite a lot. And I think there is going to be a few more changes coming in, but at the same time, costs are moving in this direction, which is really nice.
Right. And, lastly, just want to end this, let's say session with you all very, very interesting with just a few comments on your expectations and outlook for the next Formula E season. Dilbagh, with you, I mean, obviously you're very excited, you're committed. You've kind of, as you said, this season ended on a very, very positive note. And do you expect to carry over that form into the next year as well?
Hormazd, it's, looking at the crystal ball and trying to say something is difficult, but I'm very confident that we would be fighting up there. Because while we still, as I say, none of us are happy that we finished 9th, when even last year finished 9th, but this year we were so much closer to first. We're as I said, even in the last couple of races, a few things, if it came in our way, we could have finished even maybe up to 5th or 6th in the championship, and just in the last event, the way Formula E is sort of structured. So while I do have regrets, I have strong hopes that yes, we will be back in the first half of the pack, like where we typically were in the earlier stages. We have the right resource right now. And I will no longer use the excuse of lack of resources between ZF and what Mahindra has invested. We are equally as good as anyone else out there. So it's up to us to perform.
Right. And Sascha, last word with you, for the next season from your side, are we expecting any, breakthroughs in technology, or will it be just, let's say the software which is going to kind of give you the edge?
A breakthrough, I don't know, but of course we will do our best, and we will have some smaller secrets in our pocket to support the performance, that's for sure. Yes, our expectation is very high because, as I said, we had a good learning curve this season, and we are well prepared on the hardware side. We feel very confident there. And on the software side, we did good progress, and we know now even better than before Formula E how it works. The tracks are very tricky. We know the influence of a driver. So all that together in one basket, we have learned a lot as a team, and in the collaboration, it went very well. So our expectations are quite high, and I'm still very, very confident that we can fulfill that from here to there. As we all know, Formula E is always a new battle from every race to every race, so we will see. But at least the car setup, the car performance, and the drivers we have on board, plus our engineers, is the right setting to be ready to win.
Right. Well, I think, I think, yes, the next season looks very promising. We've got the right drivers, the right team, the right technology, the right partners. So with that, wish you all the best for the next season. And thank you so much to both of you for talking to us, and hope to catch up sometime soon again. Thank you very much.
Sure thing, Hormazd. Thanks for having us. But I think the most important is, as the world is opening up, I'm hoping to see you at a race pretty soon, and potentially try and get you into the Gen 3 car as early as possible, because that's out in the next literally less than a year's time from now.
Look forward to that, and thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greetings to India.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.